The afternoon sun slanted through the blinds of the research lab as Lily packed away her samples. Her fingers were still pruny from hours in the saltwater tanks, but she couldn't keep the smile off her face. After 3 years of research, countless grant applications and more rejections than she cared to remember, she had finally done it. The coral restoration project was officially a success. "Anyone up for drinks?" she called out, peeling off her latex gloves and tossing them into the bin. "First round's on me!" From across the lab, her colleague Pete glanced up from his microscope. "Someone's in a good mood," he observed, his bushy eyebrows raised in amusement. "You would be too if your baby just got approved for Phase 2 funding," Lily replied, unable to contain her excitement. 3 years of her life dedicated to developing a new technique for coral regeneration in warming waters, and the National Oceanographic Institute had finally recognized its potential. It wasn't just validation of her work. It meant the difference between watching helplessly as reef systems collapsed and actually doing something about it. "Well deserved," said Dr. Chen, her research supervisor, looking up from her computer. The older woman rarely gave compliments, which made this one all the more meaningful. "Your persistence paid off." Later that evening, crammed into a booth at the Rusty Anchor, the dive bar nearest the Marine Research Center, Lily found herself surrounded by her small team. The celebration was in full swing, with stories flowing as freely as the beer. Between the laughter and the clinking glasses, Lily felt a rare moment of belonging. Field research was lonely work, often taking her to remote locations for weeks at a time. Tonight was different. Tonight she was part of something bigger. "So what's next for the Coral Whisperer?" asked Raj, the team's data analyst, passing her another drink. Lily traced the condensation on her glass. "There's this site off the coast of the Yucatan. The local fisherman showed it to me last time I was there. A hidden cave system with these amazing rock formations. I think some of the coral species there might be adapting differently. I want to go back and study it properly." "Another expedition?" groaned Raj dramatically. "We just got you back." "It's only for 2 weeks," Lily laughed. "And this time I'll have proper funding and equipment." "To the Yucatan, then." Pete raised his glass in a toast. "And to Lily, who's probably half fish anyway." As the night wore on and her colleagues started to head home, Lily found herself sitting alone with her thoughts and a half-finished beer. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through the photos from her last trip. The vibrant coral formations, the mysterious cave entrance, and the strange symbols carved into the rock face that she'd stumbled upon. One in particular had caught her eye. A circular design with intricate patterns that resembled oceanic currents wrapped around what looked like a trident. She'd asked the local guides about it, but they'd only shrugged, suggesting it might be from an ancient fishing cult or perhaps early explorers marking a navigational point. Whatever its origin, something about it had resonated with her deeply. A new message popped up on her screen. It was from her sister, Hannah. "Did you do it yet?" Lily smiled and typed back, "Not yet. Still thinking about it." "What are you still thinking about?" came the immediate reply. "You've been talking about getting one for years." It was true. Lily had always wanted a tattoo but had never found the right design, something meaningful enough to commit to permanently. Now, looking at the symbol from the cave, she felt a certainty she hadn't before. "I found the perfect design," she typed back. "Going to check out that place Miguel recommended tomorrow." 3 dots appeared as Hannah typed her response. "Pics or it didn't happen." The next day, Lily found herself standing outside Tidal Inc., a small tattoo studio tucked between a surf shop and a cafe. Despite her determination, she hesitated at the door. Was this impulsive? Maybe. But after years of playing it safe, following the rules of academia, and fighting for respect in her field, she wanted something just for herself, a permanent reminder of this turning point in her life. The bell jingled as she pushed open the door. Inside, the walls were covered with flash art and photographs of completed work. The smell of antiseptic and ink hung in the air. A man with full-sleeve tattoos looked up from the reception desk. "Can I help you?" "I'm looking for Miguel," Lily said. "My friend Alex recommended him." "That's me," he replied with a warm smile. "Alex from the university dive team?" Lily nodded, immediately feeling more at ease. "He said you specialize in custom work." "That's right." "What did you have in mind?" Lily pulled up the photo on her phone and handed it over. "I found this symbol in a cave during my research. I'd like it on my shoulder blade." Miguel studied the image, his expression shifting subtly. Interesting design. Old looking. Where did you say you found this? In a cave system off the Yucatan Peninsula. I think it might be some kind of ancient navigation marker, but nobody seems to know for sure. He handed the phone back, his eyes lingering on the image. I can definitely do this for you, just... Are you sure about this specific design? I could modify it a bit, make it more... No modifications, Lily said firmly. I want it exactly as it is. Miguel nodded slowly. Fair enough. Your body, your choice. Let me sketch it up, and we can talk placement and size. An hour later, Lily was lying face down on the padded table as Miguel transferred the stencil onto her skin. She had chosen to place it on her left shoulder blade, where it would normally be hidden but could be revealed if she chose. This is going to take a while, Miguel warned as he prepared his equipment. Complex line work. Still sure about this? Absolutely, Lily replied, though her heart was racing. The buzzing of the tattoo gun made her flinch at first, but soon the sharp pain settled into a steady burn that was almost meditative. As Miguel worked, they talked about her research, his journey into tattoo artistry after leaving the Navy, and their shared love of the ocean. So what made you pick this design? He asked during a break, wiping away excess ink. Most people come in wanting waves or sea turtles for their first ocean-themed tattoo. Lily considered the question. When I found that cave, I was at a really low point. My funding was about to run out. My research wasn't yielding results, and I was seriously considering giving up marine biology altogether. She paused, remembering the despair she had felt. But something about that place, it felt like I was meant to find it. And the symbol was right there at the entrance, like some kind of sign. And then your research turned around, Miguel guessed, resuming his work. 2 days after I explored that cave, I collected samples that eventually led to my breakthrough, Lily confirmed. It feels connected somehow, even if that's just me being sentimental. Nothing wrong with sentimentality, Miguel said. Tattoos should mean something. 3 hours later, Miguel applied the final bandage and went through the aftercare instructions. Lily's shoulder throbbed, but when she looked in the mirror at the fresh tattoo, crisp, black lines forming the ancient symbol against her. Reddened skin, she felt a surge of pride and connection to her work. It's perfect, she breathed, when Lily returned to the lab the next day, her shoulder still tender beneath her shirt. She was met with mixed reactions. You actually did it? Pete exclaimed when she showed him. I thought all that talk last night was just the beer speaking. It's beautiful work, Dr. Chen admitted, peering at it through her glasses. Though I'm surprised you chose something so esoteric, Raj just laughed. All this fuss over a tattoo. It's just ink, people. It's not just a tattoo, Lily defended, though she was smiling. It's a reminder of why I do this work. Very poetic, Raj teased. Next you'll be telling us the sea spirits guided your hand. For the next few weeks, Lily threw herself into preparations for the upcoming expedition. The tattoo healed beautifully, and she often found herself tracing its outlines through her shirt when she was deep in thought. Despite her colleagues' good-natured teasing about being so dramatic over what they saw as just body art, she couldn't shake the feeling that the symbol connected her to something important. Little did she know that this seemingly innocent decision would soon thrust her into a world she never imagined existed, one where symbols had power, secrets lay hidden in ocean depths, and some truths were never meant to be uncovered. 3 months flew by in a whirlwind of activity. Lily's expedition to the Yucatan had been even more successful than anticipated, yielding valuable data on coral adaptation in warming waters. Her paper was being fast-tracked for publication in Ocean Sciences, and now she stood in the elegant ballroom of the Harborview Hotel, adjusting her blazer nervously as she prepared to present her findings at the International Marine Conservation Conference. This wasn't just any conference. The audience included not only her peers, but representatives from various government agencies interested in funding further research. Among them was a delegation from the Naval Research Laboratory, which had recently launched an initiative on marine ecosystem preservation in areas of military operation. You're going to knock their socks off, whispered Dr. Chen. Appearing at her side with 2 glasses of sparkling water, she handed one to Lily. I hope so, Lily replied, taking a sip to soothe her dry throat. There's a lot riding on this. Your research speaks for itself, Dr. Chen assured her. Just be yourself. Easier said than done, Lily thought. The blazer she'd borrowed from her sister felt stiff and formal, so different from her usual wetsuit or lab coat. She'd opted for a professional look, dark blue blazer over a light blouse with her hair pulled back in a neat bun. The only thing that felt like the real her was the tattoo hidden beneath her collar, her secret talisman. When her name was called, Lily took a deep breath and walked to the podium. The room fell silent as she loaded her presentation, the projected images of vibrant coral reefs filling the screen behind her. For the first few minutes, she felt awkward and stilted. But as she began discussing her work, the breakthroughs, the setbacks, the unexpected discoveries, her natural enthusiasm took over. The cave system we explored contained coral variants displaying remarkable resilience to temperature fluctuations, she explained, clicking through slides of her research site. By studying their genetic adaptations, we've identified 3 key mechanisms that could be replicated in reef restoration projects worldwide. The audience was engaged, nodding along, some taking notes. Lily felt a surge of confidence. This was her element after all, sharing the wonders of the ocean with people who understood its importance. 40 minutes later, as she wrapped up her presentation and invited questions, the room erupted in applause. Relief and pride washed over her. She'd done it. The Q&A session was lively, with colleagues and potential funders alike showing interest in her methodology. As the formal part of the evening transitioned into a networking reception, Lily found herself surrounded by fellow researchers eager to discuss collaboration opportunities. Your work on genetic markers is exactly what we've been looking for, said a woman from the Coral Reef Alliance. We should talk about implementing this in the Great Barrier Reef Restoration Project. Lily was deep in conversation when she felt a tap on her shoulder. Turning around, she found herself face to face with a tall man in a crisp naval uniform, adorned with numerous medals and insignia. His name tag read Commander Wilson. Dr. Ortega, he said, his voice carrying the unmistakable authority of someone used to giving orders. Fascinating presentation. The Navy is very interested in your research, particularly as it relates to our underwater infrastructure maintenance. Thank you, Commander, Lily replied, extending her hand. I wasn't aware the Navy had such an interest in coral restoration. We maintain numerous underwater installations, he explained, shaking her hand firmly. Understanding marine ecosystem changes is crucial for our operations. As they spoke, Lily grew warm under the bright lights of the ballroom and unconsciously reached up to loosen her collar. The movement caused her blazer to shift slightly, revealing just the edge of her tattoo. The change in Commander Wilson was immediate and alarming. His friendly expression vanished, replaced by a look of shock that quickly hardened into something cold and calculating. He took a step back, his hand instinctively moving toward his side where, Lily realized with a jolt, a service weapon would normally be holstered. Commander? She asked, confused by his sudden change in demeanor. Is everything okay? His eyes never left her shoulder. Where did you get that? He demanded, his voice now low and tense. The abrupt shift in tone caught Lily off guard. My tattoo? I got it a few months ago. It's a symbol I found during my research in Who Are You Really Working For? He cut her off, taking another step back and subtly gesturing to someone across the room. I don't understand, Lily said, increasingly bewildered. I work for Pacific Coast Marine Institute. It's all in my bio in the conference materials. People nearby had begun to notice the tension, conversations faltering as heads turned their way. Dr. Chen appeared at Lily's side, sensing something was wrong. Is there a problem here? She asked, looking between Lily and the commander. Wilson ignored her, his focus entirely on Lily. That symbol, he said, his voice barely audible now. She's not allowed to exist. Before Lily could process what he meant, 2 men in dark suits materialized beside Commander Wilson. They weren't in uniform, but everything about their stance and alertness screamed military training. Sir? One of them asked, eyeing Lily with suspicious scrutiny. Secure the subject and clear the room, Wilson ordered. Protocol Silverfish. What? Wait, Lily began, but one of the men had already taken her firmly by the arm. Ma'am, you need to come with us, he said, not unkindly but with unmistakable authority. Dr. Chen stepped forward. This is outrageous. On what grounds are you detaining my colleague? The second man produced an ID badge that he flashed too quickly for either woman to read properly. "Government security matter, ma'am. Please step aside." The room had gone completely silent now, all eyes on the unfolding scene. Lily felt her heart hammering in her chest, a cold sweat breaking out across her skin. This couldn't be happening. Not over a tattoo. There must be some mistake, she insisted as they began leading her toward a side exit. "I'm a marine biologist. I study coral reefs. That symbol is just something I found in a cave." Commander Wilson followed closely behind them, speaking quietly into what looked like a communications device on his wrist. "Assets secured. Potential Neptune breach. Containment protocol initiated." As they reached the door, Lily looked back desperately at the room full of colleagues who stood frozen in shock. Dr. Chen was arguing heatedly with a third man in a suit who had appeared to manage the situation. No one was coming to her aid. The cool evening air hit Lily's face as they emerged onto a service corridor leading to the hotel's rear entrance. A black SUV with tinted windows was already waiting, engine running. "Please," Lily tried again, her voice shaking now. "Just tell me what this is about." "What does my tattoo have to do with anything?" The men exchanged glances but remained silent as they escorted her to the vehicle. Just before they reached it, Lily spotted a familiar face coming around the corner. Raj, her colleague from the lab, stepping out for a cigarette break. His eyes widened as he took in the scene. "Raj," she called out. "Call Hannah!" "Tell her—" "Ma'am, please," the agent holding her arm said firmly, opening the SUV's door. Commander Wilson approached Raj, who stood frozen with his lighter in hand. "You know this woman?" "She's my colleague," Raj said cautiously. "Dr. Lily Ortega, one of our top researchers." "What's going on?" Wilson studied him for a moment. "Return to the conference, sir. This is a matter of national security." "National security?" Raj repeated incredulously. "She studies coral. Sometimes things aren't what they appear to be," Wilson replied cryptically before turning back to the SUV where Lily was being seated in the back. As the door closed beside her, Lily caught a final glimpse of Raj's bewildered face. Then the tinted windows shut out the world, and she found herself seated between the two agents heading to an unknown destination. "Where are you taking me?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. The agent to her left finally spoke. "To a secure facility for questioning." "About what?" "My research? My tattoo? About how a civilian marine biologist came to be marked with a classified Navy Special Operations identifier," Commander Wilson said from the front passenger seat. He had turned to look at her, his face half in shadow. "About how you accessed a secure site without triggering any of our perimeter alerts. About who you're working for." "I'm not working for anyone except my research institute," Lily insisted, frustration cutting through her fear. "And I found that symbol in an underwater cave system off the Yucatan Peninsula. I thought it was some kind of ancient marking." Wilson's laugh was cold and without humor. "Ancient. That's a new one." He turned to face forward again. "We'll get to the truth soon enough." As the SUV merged onto the highway, Lily stared out the window at the passing lights of the city, trying to make sense of what was happening. How had her life turned upside down so completely in the span of a few minutes? How could a simple tattoo, a symbol she'd found during her research, possibly be a classified Navy identifier? Whatever was happening, one thing was becoming terrifyingly clear. The symbol she'd etched permanently onto her skin wasn't just an interesting archaeological finding. It meant something to these people, something serious enough to warrant her detention without explanation or apparent due process, and Commander Wilson's words echoed ominously in her mind. "She's not allowed to exist." The room was small and sparse, just a metal table, 2 chairs and a large mirror that Lily assumed was two-way. She had been sitting there for nearly 2 hours, her blazer now draped over the back of her chair, leaving her in just her blouse. The tattoo that had caused all this trouble was clearly visible on her shoulder. They had taken her phone, her conference badge, and even the hair tie from her bun. Her numerous questions during the drive had gone unanswered, and after their arrival at what appeared to be a nondescript government building, she had been left alone in this room with nothing but her growing anxiety for company. When the door finally opened, Commander Wilson entered, followed by a woman in a dark suit carrying a tablet. Neither of them smiled. "Dr. Ortega," Wilson said, taking the seat across from her. "This is Agent." Kelly from Naval Intelligence. We have some questions for you. I've been sitting here for hours, Lily said, unable to keep the edge from her voice. Don't you think I deserve some answers first? Why am I being detained? What exactly am I accused of? Wilson and Kelly exchanged glances. You're not being charged with anything at this time, Kelly said, her tone professional but not unfriendly. We're trying to determine how you came into possession of highly classified information. My tattoo? Lily asked incredulously. That's what this is about? I told you I found that symbol in a cave during my research. I thought it was ancient, maybe Mayan or some early sailor's marking. And you just happened to find this particular symbol and decided to permanently ink it on your body? Wilson's skepticism was palpable. Yes, Lily insisted. It felt significant, important to my research breakthrough. Ask anyone who knows me. I'm a marine biologist, not a spy or whatever it is you think I am. Kelly slid her tablet across the table. On the screen was a personnel file with Lily's photo, basic information, and work history. Dr. Lily Ortega, 28, graduated top of your class from Scripps Institution of Oceanography, specializing in coral reef ecosystems, 3 published papers, grant recipient for innovative work in coral restoration, no criminal record, no suspicious travel patterns, no financial irregularities, see? Lily said. I'm exactly who I say I am. Which makes this all the more confusing, Kelly replied, taking back the tablet. The symbol on your shoulder is not ancient. It's a modern military marker, classified at the highest levels, used to identify covert underwater facilities operated by a special division of naval intelligence. The revelation hit Lily like a physical blow. That can't be right. The cave where I found it was natural, not man-made. There was nothing there that looked military. That's precisely the point, Wilson interjected. These facilities are designed to be undetectable. The markers are only known to personnel with specific clearance. Which brings us back to our question. How did you really come across this symbol? Lily's mind raced, trying to make sense of what they were telling her. I swear I found it carved into the rock in a cave system off the coast of the Yucatan. I can show you exactly where. We'll get to that, Kelly said. First, we need to know who else has seen this symbol. Who knows about your tattoo? Lily thought about it. My research team, about 5 people. The tattoo artist, Miguel. My sister, Hannah. Anyone at the conference tonight who might have noticed it? Kelly was typing notes into her tablet. We'll need contact information for all of them, and the exact location of this cave system. The questioning continued for another hour. They wanted to know every detail of her discovery. The date, the time, the exact location, who was with her, what equipment she had used, whether she had taken photographs of the site. Lily answered everything truthfully, growing increasingly bewildered by the intensity of their interest. Look, she finally said, exhaustion setting in. I've told you everything I know. I'm not working for anyone. I'm not a spy. I'm just a scientist who made an unfortunate choice in body art, apparently. Can I go home now? Wilson leaned forward. I'm afraid it's not that simple, Dr. Ortega. Your possession of this symbol represents a serious security breach. Until we understand exactly how this happened and whether it's an isolated incident, you'll remain in protective custody. Protective custody? Lily echoed. You mean I'm a prisoner? We prefer to think of it as a guest of the government, Kelly said smoothly, for your own protection as much as ours. After they left, Lily was moved to a small but comfortable room with a bed, a desk, and a private bathroom. It was more like a hotel room than a cell, but the locked door made its purpose clear enough. They returned her phone, now clearly wiped of data and reset to factory settings. You can make calls to approved numbers only, Kelly explained. Family and close friends. No work colleagues for now. Internet access is limited and monitored. How long will I be here? Lily asked. That depends on our investigation. A few days at least. Left alone, Lily sank onto the bed, her mind spinning. How had this happened? How had a simple research trip led to this nightmare? And most troublingly, what exactly had she stumbled upon in that underwater cave? With nothing else to do, she decided to use what limited resources she had. She called her sister. Lily? Where are you? Your colleague Raj called me, saying some men took you away at the conference. I'm okay, Lily assured her, though it felt like a lie. There's been a misunderstanding about my research. I'm helping clear it up. She couldn't say more, not with the certainty that every word was being monitored, but Hannah was quick on the uptake. This is about that tattoo, isn't it? The weird symbol? Lily hesitated. Yes. Turns out it means something I didn't know about. Hold on, Hannah said. There was rustling on the line, then the sound of typing. I took a photo of it, remember? After you got it done. I'm looking at it now. Have you tried searching online for what it might mean? No, Lily admitted. She hadn't thought it necessary. She knew where she'd found it after all. I'm going to do some digging, Hannah said. Call you back. True to her word, Hannah called again an hour later, her voice tense with excitement. I think I found something. I ran the image through a reverse search and got nothing official, but I found a forum thread on one of those conspiracy theory sites. Someone posted a nearly identical symbol, asking if anyone knew what it was. The thread was deleted within hours, but I found an archived version. What did it say? Lily asked, sitting up straighter. The original poster claimed to be an ex-Navy diver who saw the symbol on a restricted document. Before the thread was removed, someone replied saying it was related to something called Project Neptune's Veil. Does that mean anything to you? No, Lily said, her heartbeat quickening. What else? Not much. Just vague claims about underwater bases and black-budget programs. Typical conspiracy stuff, but Hannah paused. The timing of the takedown is interesting. The whole thread vanished within hours of being posted. Someone's monitoring for the symbol online. As if to confirm Hannah's theory, Lily's door opened less than 10 minutes after she ended the call. Agent Kelly stood there, her expression grim. Dr. Ortega, we need to talk about your sister's recent internet activities. Lily wasn't surprised they had been listening. She was just trying to help understand why I'm being held here. By searching for classified information online, Kelly shook her head. She's now on our radar too. This is exactly what we wanted to avoid. The next morning, Lily was escorted to a different room where a new person waited. An older man in civilian clothes, his silver hair and weathered face suggesting years of experience. He didn't introduce himself immediately, just gestured for Lily to sit. Your sister is resourceful, he finally said. Project Neptune's Veil hasn't been active since the Cold War, or at least that's the official line. Who are you? Lily asked. Someone who used to work on Neptune's Veil. Retired now, technically. He studied her carefully. I've reviewed your case. I believe you're telling the truth about finding the symbol in that cave. What troubles me is how it got there in the first place. So you believe me? Lily felt a surge of relief. Let's just say I find it more plausible that you stumbled onto something you shouldn't have than that you're a foreign agent. He slid a folder across the table. These are satellite images of the area where you were diving. Can you mark the exact location of the cave entrance? Lily examined the images and pointed to a coastal rock formation. Here, it's underwater at high tide, but at low tide you can see the entrance. It doesn't look like much from the outside. The man made a note. And inside? Describe it again. A natural limestone cavern system. Water in the lower chambers, dry in the upper ones. The symbol was carved into the wall near a junction between two passages, about 50 meters in from the entrance. The man nodded slowly. Dr. Ortega, do you know what you found? That cave isn't just a natural formation. It's an access point to one of our oldest underwater facilities. A listening post established in 1962 to monitor Soviet submarine activity in the Gulf. It was supposed to have been decommissioned in 1989, Lily stared at him. But there was nothing there. No equipment, no doors, nothing that looked man-made at all. That was the point. Our early facilities were designed to utilize natural formations with minimal alterations. The symbol you found was essentially a marker for those with clearance, letting them know they'd found the correct entrance. He leaned back, looking troubled. The question is, if the facility was decommissioned as ordered, why is the marker still there? And more importantly, why didn't our perimeter security detect your presence? For the first time, Lily realized that the man's concern wasn't just about her having discovered the symbol. It was about what her discovery implied. You think the facility might still be active, she said slowly. Off the books. The man's expression confirmed her suspicion, which means either someone in our government is running operations without proper oversight or someone else has taken over the facility, Lily finished, a chill running down her spine. He nodded grimly. You've inadvertently stumbled into something much bigger than a security breach, Dr. Ortega. And that tattoo on your shoulder has just made you a person of significant interest to people who prefer to remain in the shadows. Lily touched her shoulder. The raised lines of the tattoo perceptible through her blouse. What had seemed like a meaningful personal choice now felt like a target on her back. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now," the man said, gathering his papers. "We find out exactly what's going on in that cave, and you, Dr. Ortega, are going to help us. Because like it or not, you're already involved." As he stood to leave, Lily called after him. "You never told me your name." He paused at the door. "You can call me Thomas. And Dr. Ortega, I suggest you prepare for a trip back to the Yucatan." The helicopter skimmed low over the turquoise waters of the Yucatan coast, the rhythmic thump of its rotors a stark contrast to the natural beauty below. Lily sat wedged between Thomas and Commander Wilson, the three of them wearing noise-canceling headsets that allowed them to speak over the din. 5 days had passed since her detention at the conference. 5 days of intense debriefing, of telling and retelling her story, of being shown classified files about Neptune's veil that made her head spin. What had begun as a simple research trip months ago had now evolved into a joint military intelligence operation, with her as the reluctant centerpiece. 2 minutes to landing, the pilot's voice crackled through the headsets. Thomas nodded and turned to Lily. "Remember the plan? You lead us to the exact spot where you found the symbol. Don't touch anything, don't wander off. We still don't know what we're dealing with here." "I've been in underwater caves before," Lily reminded him, a hint of irritation in her voice. After days of being treated like either a suspect or an asset, she was tired of having her expertise questioned. "This is literally my job." "Your job is studying coral," Wilson cut in sharply. "This is national security," Lily bit back a retort. There was no point arguing with him. Since their first encounter at the conference, Wilson had made it clear he didn't trust her, despite Thomas's apparent willingness to give her the benefit of the doubt. The helicopter touched down on a small clearing near the shoreline. A temporary base camp had already been established, with several military-grade tents and equipment cases arranged in a neat perimeter. Armed personnel in civilian clothing patrolled the edges. As they disembarked, Lily shielded her eyes against the sun and took in the familiar coastline. She had been here just months ago under very different circumstances. Excited, hopeful, focused on her research. Now she returned with a military escort and a newfound understanding that the underwater cave system she had explored contained secrets far beyond ancient marine biology. A man approached from the main tent, his weathered face creased in a welcoming smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Dr. Ortega, I'm Agent Reeves, site coordinator. We've been preparing for your arrival." They were led to the command tent where satellite images and topographical maps covered a large table. Several people huddled around computers, barely looking up as they entered. "We've been monitoring the site since your report," Reeves explained, pointing to the maps. "No activity detected, but we're maintaining a perimeter. Your dive team is being prepped now." "Dive team?" Lily asked. Wilson gestured to a group of men checking equipment nearby. "Navy SEALs with specialized training in underwater operations. They'll accompany us." "Us? You're coming too?" Lily couldn't keep the surprise from her voice. She had assumed Wilson would coordinate from base camp. "I have extensive dive experience," he replied coldly, "and I need to see this facility firsthand." "Assuming it still exists," Thomas interjected. "Remember, it was officially decommissioned over 30 years ago." The next hour was a blur of preparation. Lily was given a wetsuit that felt far more sophisticated than any she'd worn before. "Thermal regulation and integrated comms," the technician explained as he helped her into it. The dive equipment was similarly advanced, with heads-up displays built into the masks and air systems that seemed impossibly compact. As they made final preparations at the water's edge, Lily found herself next to a SEAL team member who introduced himself simply as Cooper. "First time diving with military?" he asked, adjusting her tank straps with practiced efficiency. "That obvious, huh?" Lily managed a nervous smile. "Just stick close to me," he said, his tone reassuring. "These systems are pretty intuitive once you're in the water." Wilson approached, already fully geared up except for his mask. "Final briefing," he announced to the group. "We enter through the cave opening Dr. Ortega identified. Our primary objective is to verify whether the Neptune's Veil facility is still operational, and if so, who's operating it. No engagement with any personnel we might encounter. This is reconnaissance only." He turned to Lily, his expression severe. Dr. Ortega, you will remain between Cooper and myself at all times. You're here as a guide only. Is that clear? Crystal, Lily replied, resisting the urge to salute mockingly. The water was cool and startlingly clear as they descended. Lily had forgotten how beautiful this particular stretch of coastline was, with its vibrant coral formations and teeming fish life. Under different circumstances, she would have been cataloging species and taking water samples. Today, she was leading a covert military operation to a supposedly abandoned Cold War facility that she had stumbled upon by accident. The cave entrance was exactly as she remembered it, a dark mouth in the limestone cliff face, partially hidden by a coral outcropping. As they approached, Lily felt a familiar thrill of discovery mingled with a new sense of trepidation. Last time she had been blissfully ignorant of what lay inside. Now she couldn't help but wonder what they might find. Wilson signaled to the team and they activated the powerful underwater lights mounted on their gear. The beams cut through the darkness, illuminating the narrow entrance passage. Lily led the way, navigating through the familiar twists and turns of the cave system. The comm system in their masks allowed for limited communication, mostly brief status updates and directional instructions. 50 meters in, Lily reported as they reached a junction in the passages. The symbol should be on the wall to the right. They paused, lights scanning the rock surface. There it was. The same intricate circular design with patterns resembling currents wrapped around a trident-like shape. Identical to the one permanently inked on Lily's shoulder. Confirmed, Wilson said tersely. Proceed to the location where you believe the facility might be located. Lily hesitated. I never found any facility, just natural cave formations. The entrance would be concealed, Thomas's voice came through the comms. He had remained at the base camp, coordinating from above. Look for irregularities in the rock surface, unusual mineral deposits, anything that seems out of place. They continued deeper into the cave system, moving through a series of chambers that gradually ascended until they reached a large air pocket. The team surfaced, removing their masks in the dim glow of their lights. This is as far as I explored last time, Lily explained, her voice echoing slightly in the cavernous space. I cataloged some unusual coral specimens in the flooded sections, then continued up to this air pocket to rest before heading back out. Wilson scanned the chamber with a handheld device. No electronic signatures detected. No signs of recent human activity. Maybe the facility was properly decommissioned after all, Cooper suggested. Or maybe we're not looking in the right place, Wilson replied. He pointed his light toward a narrow fissure in the far wall. That passage. Did you explore it? Lily shook her head. It looked too tight for safe solo diving. I marked it for a return trip with a proper team. Wilson signaled to two of the SEALs. Check it out. Careful approach. The men nodded and swam toward the fissure, their lights disappearing into the darkness beyond. Minutes ticked by in tense silence. Then the radio crackled. Commander, you're going to want to see this. The passage was indeed narrow, but navigable with their equipment. It twisted sharply downward before opening into another, much larger chamber that clearly wasn't natural. The walls were smooth concrete, now covered with decades of marine growth but unmistakably man-made. Neptune's veil, Wilson breathed, his earlier skepticism replaced by grim satisfaction. It's still here. They surfaced in what had once been some kind of docking area for small submersibles. Rusted metal platforms lined one wall and heavy watertight doors, some partially open, led deeper into the facility. Emergency lighting strips, long dead, lined the ceiling. Looks abandoned, Cooper observed, sweeping his light across the deteriorating infrastructure. Maybe, Wilson conceded. Maybe not. They cautiously moved through the facility, documenting everything with the cameras mounted on their gear. Most of the rooms had been stripped of equipment, leaving only empty brackets and disconnected cables. Decades of saltwater seepage had corroded much of the metal and electronics. This place was definitely shut down, Lily said as they examined what appeared to have been a control room. There's nothing here. There's something not right, Wilson insisted, examining a section of wall where cables disappeared into a conduit. The decommissioning protocols for these facilities were They wouldn't leave infrastructure intact like this. As they moved deeper into the complex, the signs of abandonment became less pronounced. In one room, relatively dry and sealed compared to the others, they found equipment that looked surprisingly modern. "This isn't 1980s tech," Cooper said, examining a rack of servers. "This was installed much more recently." Wilson's expression darkened. "Someone's been using this facility. Unauthorized." A sudden sound from deeper in the complex froze them all in place. The unmistakable metallic clang of a door closing. "We're not alone," Wilson whispered, immediately signaling for the team to cut their lights. In the sudden darkness, Lily felt her heart hammering in her chest. The narrow beam of a flashlight appeared in the corridor ahead, sweeping back and forth. Voices, too distant to make out clearly, echoed through the facility. Wilson activated his radio, switching to a secure channel. "Base, this is actual. We have unknown personnel in the facility. At least 2 individuals. Requesting instructions." Thomas's voice came back immediately. "Hold position. Observe only. Do not engage unless threatened." The lights and voices grew closer. Wilson pulled Lily into a recessed doorway, the rest of the team finding similar cover. Through a crack in the door, Lily could see 2 figures in diving gear carrying equipment cases. They spoke in a language she didn't recognize, not Spanish, not English, Russian. Wilson breathed in her ear, so quietly she barely heard him. The strangers passed their hiding place without pausing, continuing toward the docking area they had come through. Once the sound of their movements had faded, Wilson signaled for the team to follow at a distance. They tracked the strangers back to the docking area, where a small, sleek submersible now waited. Definitely not abandoned Cold War technology, but something modern and sophisticated. "They're removing equipment," Cooper observed as they watched the strangers load their cases into the sub. "Cleaning out the place, or they detected our presence and are making a strategic retreat," Wilson countered. "Either way, we need to know who they are and what they've been doing here." As if hearing his words, one of the strangers suddenly paused and turned, sweeping his light directly toward their hiding place. The beam caught Lily full in the face, momentarily blinding her. There was a shout, then chaos erupted. The SEAL team moved with practiced precision, emerging from cover with weapons raised, shouting commands. The strangers dropped their cases, reaching for weapons of their own. "Federal agents, hands where we can see them," Wilson bellowed, his voice echoing in the cavernous space. For a moment it seemed like the confrontation might end peacefully, the strangers outnumbered and caught by surprise. Then one of them spotted Lily, his eyes widening in shock as they fixed on her shoulder where, even through the wetsuit, the outline of her tattoo was faintly visible from certain angles. He shouted something to his companion, and both made a dash for their submersible. "Stop them," Wilson ordered, but it was too late. The sub's engines whirred to life and it began to pull away from the dock. Cooper raised his weapon, but Wilson grabbed his arm. "Stand down!" "We can't risk hitting their oxygen systems." They watched helplessly as the sub disappeared into the dark waters, taking with it any answers about who had been secretly using the abandoned facility. "Well," Thomas said when they reported back at base camp, "now we know Neptune's Veil wasn't as decommissioned as we were told. The question is, how long have the Russians, assuming that's who they were, been using it and what for?" Lily, wrapped in a thermal blanket and sipping hot tea, looked up wearily. "And why did seeing my tattoo spook them so badly? They were ready to surrender until they spotted it." Wilson's expression was unreadable. "Because to them that symbol means you're one of us. Deep cover Navy intelligence. And the fact that you were there with us means their operation is blown." "Great," Lily sighed. "So now I have Russian spies thinking I'm an American spy, all because of a tattoo I got to commemorate my research." "It gets worse," Thomas said grimly. "They saw your face clearly. They'll run facial recognition, find out who you really are, and when they discover you're not actually Navy intelligence," he didn't need to finish the thought. Everyone knew what he meant. Once they realized she was a civilian who had accidentally stumbled onto their operation, they would want to ensure her silence, permanently. "So what happens now?" Lily asked, suddenly feeling the weight of her situation crash down on her. Wilson and Thomas exchanged glances. "Now," Wilson said, "we move to phase 2, protection and counterintelligence, and you," Thomas added, looking directly at Lily, "have some difficult choices to make." 3 weeks later, Lily sat in a sterile room at a military medical facility, watching as a laser slowly erased the tattoo from her shoulder. Each pulse sent a sharp sting through her skin, but she hardly noticed the pain. Her mind was elsewhere, replaying the whirlwind events that had brought her here. After their discovery at the Neptune's Vale facility, things had moved quickly. The entire site had been secured by a larger military team, with experts brought in to examine what remained after the Russian operatives' hasty departure. From what Thomas had told her, they'd found evidence of sophisticated surveillance equipment, technology designed to monitor underwater communications, shipping movements, and possibly even track submarines. Almost done, the technician said, breaking into her thoughts. One more session after this and it should be completely gone. Lily nodded silently. She had agreed to the tattoo removal as part of the deal she'd struck with naval intelligence. The symbol had become too dangerous to keep, not just for national security reasons, but for her own safety. After the last pulse of the laser, the technician applied a cooling gel and bandaged her shoulder. Same aftercare as before. Keep it clean, avoid sun exposure, apply the ointment twice daily. Thanks, Lily said, pulling her shirt back on carefully over the bandage. As she left the treatment room, she found Thomas waiting in the hallway. How's it looking? He asked, falling into step beside her. Like it was never there, Lily replied. At least that's what they tell me it will look like eventually. Thomas nodded, his expression sympathetic. I know this isn't how you imagined things would go when you got that tattoo. Lily laughed humorlessly. You could say that. I thought I was commemorating a research breakthrough, not stumbling into an international espionage situation. They walked in silence down the long corridor toward the exit, where a car waited to take her back to her temporary housing. Since the incident, she had been living in a government-provided apartment under a security detail. Not quite witness protection, but not freedom either. The polygraph results came back clean, Thomas said as they neared the exit. And the background check is complete. There's no indication you had any knowledge of Neptune's Vale before your dive expedition. I've only been telling you that for weeks, Lily said dryly. Protocol, Thomas shrugged. But it means we can move forward with the options we discussed. Lily paused at the door, turning to face him fully. Have you made a decision about my request? Thomas studied her for a moment. It's unusual. Typically, civilians involved in situations like this are debriefed, sworn to secrecy, and sent back to their normal lives, if possible. But my normal life isn't an option anymore, is it? Lily pressed. Those Russian operatives saw my face. They think I'm naval intelligence. Even if I go back to my research, I'll be looking over my shoulder forever. True, Thomas conceded. Which is why we're even considering your proposal. Outside, they settled into the back seat of a black government sedan. The driver, whom Lily recognized as one of her regular security detail, nodded politely but said nothing as they pulled away from the medical facility. Commander Wilson is against it, Thomas said once they were underway. He thinks bringing a civilian into the program sets a dangerous precedent. Of course he is, Lily muttered. Despite their shared experiences, Wilson had remained cold and suspicious toward her. But this isn't about setting precedents. It's about making the best of a bad situation. Thomas smiled faintly. That's almost exactly what I told him. The fact is, Dr. Ortega, you've demonstrated remarkable composure under pressure. You have specialized knowledge that could be valuable to our underwater operations. And as you pointed out, your normal life has been compromised regardless. Lily felt a flutter of hope. So the director has conditionally approved your request. You'll be offered a position as a civilian consultant with the Marine Environmental Assessment Division of Naval Intelligence. Your official role will be to study the environmental impact of our underwater operations. Unofficially, you'll be helping us understand and potentially mitigate some of the damage these unauthorized uses of our old facilities may have caused. Relief washed over Lily. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was better than the alternatives. Relocating with a new identity, abandoning her research career, or trying to resume her old life under constant threat. There are conditions, Thomas continued. You'll need to complete some basic intelligence training. You'll be under security monitoring for at least a year, and you can't discuss your real work with anyone. Not your research colleagues, not your friends, not even your sister. The last restriction hit hard. Hannah had been her confidant throughout this ordeal, at least until naval intelligence had stepped in and restricted their communications. The thought of keeping secrets from her was painful. I understand, Lily said quietly. It won't be easy, Thomas warned. Living a compartmentalized life rarely is. But you'll be doing important work that matters. The car pulled up to the apartment building where Lily had been staying. As they got out, Thomas handed her a thick envelope. Your new credentials, security protocols, and reporting instructions. You start next Monday. A car will pick you up at 700. Lily took the envelope, feeling its weight, both physical and metaphorical. Thank you, Thomas, for advocating for me. He nodded, his usual reserve softening slightly. You found yourself in an impossible situation through no fault of your own. This way, at least something good can come of it. As Thomas turned to leave, Lily called after him. The Russians. Do we know who they were working for? Official government or something else? Thomas hesitated. That's still being determined. But one thing is clear from what we found in the facility. They've been using it for years, possibly since shortly after it was supposedly decommissioned. Which raises some troubling questions about who knew and looked the other way. The implications of that statement lingered with Lily as she rode the elevator up to her apartment. The possibility of traitors or double agents within the U.S. intelligence community was disturbing, to say the least. Inside her apartment, Lily dropped the envelope on the kitchen counter and went straight to the window. The view wasn't spectacular, just the parking lot and a slice of the harbor beyond. But after weeks of feeling trapped, she'd grown to appreciate even this limited connection to the outside world. Her phone rang, displaying her sister's number. After a moment's hesitation, Lily answered. Hey, Hannah. Lily, they finally let you answer your phone. Are you okay? What's happening? Lily took a deep breath, mentally sorting what she could and couldn't say. I'm okay. The situation is resolving. They've offered me a job, actually. A job? With the Navy? You're a coral expert, not a soldier. It's a research position, Lily explained, careful to stay within the boundaries she'd been given. Environmental impact assessment for underwater operations. It's actually pretty aligned with my expertise. There was a pause on the other end of the line. This is because of that tattoo, isn't it? The one you found in the cave? Yes, Lily admitted. No point denying what Hannah already knew. Turns out it was significant, and you can't tell me how or why. No, I'm sorry. Another pause, longer this time. Are you being forced into this, Lily? Blink twice if you need rescue. The joke fell flat, undercut by genuine concern. I'm not being forced, Lily assured her. This was my suggestion, actually. It's complicated, but it's a good opportunity, under the circumstances. The circumstances being that you accidentally got a classified military symbol tattooed on your body and now know things you shouldn't. Lily couldn't help but smile at her sister's bluntness. Something like that. Well, Hannah sighed. I guess Thanksgiving conversations just got a lot more restricted. After the call ended, Lily opened the envelope Thomas had given her. Inside was a new ID badge with her photo, a security clearance card, and a packet of documents outlining her new role. Her eyes caught on the job title, Marine Ecosystem Analyst, Special Projects Division. It was surreal to think that a simple choice, getting a tattoo of a symbol she'd found during her research, had altered the course of her entire life. She thought back to that day at the tattoo studio, Miguel's hesitation when he'd seen the design. Had he recognized it somehow? Had his Navy background given him some inkling of its significance? She would probably never know. 6 months later, Lily stood on the deck of a research vessel, watching as the sun rose over the Gulf of Mexico. Her security detail had been reduced to a single agent who kept a discreet distance, allowing her some semblance of normalcy as she worked. The past months had been an intense education in the world of naval intelligence and underwater operations. She'd completed basic security training, learned protocols for classified information handling, and been briefed on the full history of Neptune's Veil and similar programs. Her new role had turned out to be more meaningful than she'd initially hoped. Her environmental expertise was genuinely valued, and she'd been able to continue aspects of her coral research under the guise of military ecosystem assessment. Dr. Ortega, a voice called from behind her. She turned to see Commander Wilson approaching, his expression as stern as ever. Their working relationship had remained professional but cool, though there was now a grudging respect where suspicion had once dominated. Commander, she acknowledged. Are we ready to deploy? Almost. There's someone here to see you first. He stepped aside, revealing a familiar face that made Lily's heart skip a beat. "Miguel?" she gasped. The tattoo artist smiled awkwardly, looking out of place on the military vessel in his civilian clothes. "Hey, Dr. Ortega, or should I say Analyst Ortega now?" Wilson cleared his throat. "I'll leave you two to talk. Briefing in 15 minutes. He walked away, leaving them alone on the deck. "What are you doing here?" Lily asked, still stunned. Miguel leaned against the railing beside her. "Turns out we have something in common. I wasn't just in the Navy, I was part of a special program. Neptune's Veil, actually, near the end of its official run." Understanding dawned on Lily. "You recognized the symbol when I showed it to you?" He nodded. "I thought it was just a coincidence, someone who'd seen it in a book or something. I reported it through old channels, but honestly I didn't think anyone would care about a defunct program." "Well, they cared," Lily said, unconsciously touching her shoulder where the tattoo had been. "But I still don't understand why you're here now. They're reactivating some of the old team. Legitimate this time, with proper oversight. After what you found? Well, there's concern about other abandoned facilities being used by foreign operatives. They asked me to help identify potential sites." Lily shook her head in disbelief. "So we're both here because of that tattoo." "Life's funny that way," Miguel said with a slight smile. "One small choice and everything changes." Later, as the vessel headed toward the coordinates of another potentially compromised facility, Lily stood at the bow, watching the waves break against the hull. Commander Wilson joined her, handing her a cup of coffee. "Still think it was just a tattoo?" he asked, a rare hint of humor in his voice. Lily accepted the coffee with a small smile. "Definitely not just anything. But I'm starting to think it was exactly what it needed to be." Wilson nodded thoughtfully. "Sometimes the most random choices end up being the most consequential. For what it's worth, Dr. Ortega, I think you're where you're supposed to be." As the sun climbed higher and the coastline receded behind them, Lily thought about the strange journey that had brought her here. From marine biologist to accidental security risk to naval intelligence consultant, all because of a symbol carved in a cave and the decision to make it permanent. It wasn't the life she had planned. But as she looked out at the endless horizon, she realized it might be exactly the life she was meant to find.